Hi there, and welcome to Robbie's Room. I'm Robbie Mason, and today I'm going to be telling you a story that I have written to be a part of my Batman mythos. Batman is created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. All characters are based on characters from DC. Big sources of inspiration are I Am the Knight from Batman the Animated Series, written by Michael Reeves, directed by Boyd Kirkland. Wound from Batman the Animated Series, written by Rich Fogel, directed by Curt, Geda. Sorry if I said that wrong. Batman Ego, a psychotic slide into the heart of darkness, written and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke. The Batman, movie release 2022, directed by Matt Reeves, written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. Batman Arkham Shadow, directed by Ryan Payton, narrative director Brendan Murphy, lead writer Alexander O. Smith, writers Chris Sims, Christos Gage, James Howell, and additional writing Paul Alexander. Just to give a little setup, how I calculate my Batman year, as in 0 year, year 1, year 2, that type of thing, because that's how I base most of my stories off of, is September. As we know, this episode is actually being released on Batman Day, so happy Batman Day. So September is also the release of when originally the animated series came out in 1992. So that also just helps pinpoint a starting point for these Batman years. So that is when I technically say the Waynes were murdered in Crime Alley, and it is so many years later that's when Bruce Wayne finally donned the mantle of the Batman. So September is, our starting point, and this September is actually where our story begins. Just a little background for this universe. Gotham streets have been protected by the Batman for over 10 years. Little has changed, but the shadow and the mystery that once was is nearly gone. The legend of the Bat known across the city and publicized. So, t-shirts, toys, all of that is being made of the Batman. News coverage, Tim Drake's out there and he's finding out who's the identity of Batman and Robin. So, we're really seeing matured Batman, but not too mature. Our story begins on the anniversary of Martha and Thomas Wayne's passing. So, after Batman attempts to place roses on the anniversary of his parents' death, he is forced to go stop a dispute. When he comes back to Crime Alley to check on Dr. Leslie Tompkins, he finds a man and a woman dead on top of the roses that Bruce had placed. Batman later finds the man who killed the two and brutally beats whoever they are up, nearly killing them. And how I tell the story, it's not going to be like just story. I'm going to go into a little bit of everything. This Batman 10 years has had a traumatic past 2 Batman years. So that would be Batman year 8 and Batman year 9. So basically what happened around the beginning of year 8 and the end of year 7, Hugo Strange became in charge of Arkham Hospital, formerly Arkham Asylum. When he took over, he became obsessed with Batman, yada yada, the usual, and started manipulating events around the entire city. As he's manipulating events, he figures out Batman's identity, and this stuff goes crazy. Also around this time, because of Hugo Strange, we're seeing manipulation and rise of new villains. Poison Ivy, Clayface, Man-Bat. They have their own story, their own origin, but it's somehow tied into Hugo Strange. Either very little or very big. A lot of these Arkham type of foes for Batman are present during year 8 and year 9, and we see a peak of how many are rising.
You'll never take me alive!
As well as in year 8 and year 9, the Joker has become much more violent and much more crazy in his game that he says he plays with Batman. and his final mission of showing how they're the same person. Really pushing the limits of what he can do and what Batman can do to stop him begins to make Batman spiral a bit. And, when he started out his career, he was just facing old time mobsters that needed to retire. He was dealing with figuring out where is the line of, who are the real criminals and who are just doing crime to survive. And now he has the Joker and all these other type of metahuman-esque and even just regular people type of villains, and it's become very overwhelming. And like how Gotham reports, you're also looking and seeing that he's saying, and the people of Gotham, that because of Batman and because he's around for so long, he's to blame. So it's starting to kind of get in his head. But the big thing about year 8 and year 9 is Dick Grayson, who is Robin at this point, and Batgirl, who is Barbara Gordon. Year 9 is their senior year of high school. So lots of decisions are being made by them in what comes next for them and how they are going to balance these two identities of their personal life and with also their heroic counterpart. Batman at this point is very much treating them like soldiers instead of family. And I think that is such a massive, massive key point. I don't like when Batman treats the Bat family like soldiers throughout his entire career. There's not a specific entry to shout out, but I do want to shout out Webtoon's Wayne Family Adventures, because that kind of also inspires the second half of this story. There's not like a specific entry, just kind of the whole concept of the story. Batman is treating Robin and Batgirl like soldiers, and he is expecting the most out of them. He wants them to abandon friendship hangouts, school events. Everything is, we gotta go out and patrol or whatever. And they just kind of want to live their life. They're not liking the balance. And Dick Grayson is struggling especially because now's the time in his life where he really does need the guidance. And he tries to look for Bruce, but Bruce is not there for the guidance. He's only focused on the mission.
You couldn't even save the ones that mattered. How do you expect to save Gotham?
So with the events of Hugo Strange manipulation and all that, it causes craziness. And during this time, what also causes massive chaos is the Penguin is currently the mayor. So Oz Cobblepot, Mayor Cobblepot, has corruption in the government to right back where Batman started. I think a key point is over these past 10 years, when I say that nothing much has changed in Gotham, that is not fully true in the sense of over time, things did change. Things got better. Jim Gordon became commissioner. Because of that, the GCPD was slightly better. Never to the point where it should be, and even how some media interpret the GCPD, I don't think you could ever have a fully uncorruptible GCPD representation. But I do believe that there was some good, but because of these last couple years, and now with Cobblepot as mayor and Joker going wild, Hugo Strange behind the scenes doing all these events, it's kind of turning, Gotham's going backwards and kind of going back to its 0 year for Batman, at least what he's remembering. And because of all of that, so we have the rise of anarchy, Lonnie Lincoln, and kind of takes the role with him and his anarchists, like the Rat King and the rats in Batman Arkham Shadow, kind of like that concept, rising up against everything, the corruption, whatever. The only thing is, anarchy believes the only way to truly change everything is to burn it down. And Batman has a hard time seeing his point of view. He just sees anarchy's kind of way of he's gonna hurt people and he's gonna, harm it's gonna have a ripple effect. I think that's the key point of it's not that. Yeah, the key point is that it's gonna be a ripple effect, kind of like Arkham Shadow. There's a night where, and this is still year 9, mind you, we're towards the end of year 9, and actually I forgot one part. So in year 9, that, like I said, Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon are graduating high school. When we get there, the event happens and basically Bruce Wayne doesn't show up. I felt too bad, and I probably shouldn't be feeling bad because it's a part of the story. I still have like Batman in my head show up and he watches through the shadows as Batman, and I think that helps with the big plot point that we will get to later into this story. But it shows Batman, and that's who's really been there the whole time. He goes, Bruce Wayne, shows up for pictures afterwards. He says he was stuck in traffic, whatever. But this really hurts Dick Grayson. And as much as it hurts Dick Grayson, it devastates Alfred and Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Truly, truly. They have been guiding Bruce and raising Bruce to be this great person, aiding him along something they don't fully support, but they see how there is a positive with Batman. But, he failed as an adoptive father to Dick Grayson, especially in that moment. So now we're back to this somehow night in year 9, which would be after graduation. And there's riots, the usual. And Batman snaps and he's going crazy. Kind of like at the one point in Arkham Shadow, he sees the 2 rats standing over his parents' grave and so, like, all this stuff. And also a big similar takeaway too is the scene from Old Wounds where Robin sees Batman just like interrogating this guy in front of his assumed to be wife and definitely his son. So we see that and it's heartbreaking, and Robin sees through it. He sees through it all. Finally, we get to the point where, Batman's, in quotes, winning the day, and he's just brutally beating Anarchy. And Robin did figure it out. Like, Robin and Batgirl have been more of a detective than Batman has been in the last several months, 2 years, whatever. Batman, it has just been aggression and violence and all that. He's losing his way because of some manipulations with Hugo Strange and just the chaos of Gotham. So Robin sees this and already figured out that Anarchy, because they didn't know at the time, he had to be the same age as them. And Batman's just beating up this 17 to 18-year-old. So Robin goes in and tries to stop him. And the famous moment that everyone jokes about, but I think could be not forced, but like turned into a serious moment and turning point for the relationship of Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. Batman turns and slaps Robin. I mean, I don't think he would slap him, but he definitely gives him a good punch or something. This leads to Alfred leaving a note for Bruce. And in my kind of Gotham City, I combine, so there's Wayne Mansion on the Wayne estate, and there is also Wayne Tower. And Wayne Tower is not the Enterprise, it's Enterprises, this isn't Star Trek. The Enterprises, this is kind of like what happens in the Batman. A penthouse, whatever. So Alfred leaves a note, he takes Dick Grayson, and they basically leave the manor, saying, Alfred's like, I'm disappointing into you, you really need to change your actions. So during this moment, Batman really starts to be thinking about what's going on and the choices he's making. What he actually does, and I don't know if I want to save this for later or if I want to do it now, but I think it's important to do it now because it kind of sets up the conversation that we have within the story. Like I said, we are still in year 9, and because this is like, we're at the point where it's like super end of year 9, going into 10 of where this story takes place, it makes sense. So Batman hasn't ever faced Scarecrow, but he has faced Jonathan Crane and some of the fear toxin. So he takes the toxin himself.
I am vengeance! I am Batman!
Because he needs to face his greatest fear and really challenge that. And he comes to face with the Batman. And they have a long conversation of who is the mask, Bruce Wayne or Batman. And that kind of, he doesn't find the solution. Batman, comes to terms, he apologizes. Things are never the same, but they stop Hugo Strange. Things look a little bit better. Dick Grayson, sorry for my Teen Titans fan. I actually make, in my universe, Dick Grayson go to California, and they do the Teen Titans are actually based in the West Coast, and do instead of East Coast Titans and stuff, all of them West Coast. But that's just because Dick Grayson wanted to get as far away as possible, and it was one of the reasons why Batman and him were kind of arguing for the past couple months and year or so, because Dick Grayson really loves a school in California, whatever, and Batman was like, no, you have to go to Gotham University. You have to stay right here because I need Robin and I need help. Dick Grayson goes to college. Barbara Gordon doesn't really. She allegedly retires from Batgirl when she goes to Burnside for college. And that kind of wraps up year 9, and now here we are back in year 10. And Batman is still, now that no one is around him and kind of the chaos of year 9 has settled down, he's still trying to find the answer to the question of who is the mask, Batman or Bruce Wayne. He's been so scared of losing people, like he lost his parents. He built up this family, but he is the one who destroyed it. So now we're back in year 10, we're back into the core of the story. We see Batman rushing to get to some location in Gotham. So elsewhere in Gotham, Commissioner Gordon, Sarah Essen, Harvey Bullock, Renee Montoya, your favorite GCPD people, are going after... I use the character from the episode I Am the Night, the animated series, Jimmy Peak, aka the Jazz Man. I also considered Black Mask, but he has a bigger role in my universe story. But place who you feel I think would be a good character in here. I don't think it should be the Joker. I think it should be an old-time crime boss, not a Carmine Falcone, someone not as popular, because year 10 is also kind of a point in my story where I start to discuss the transition of what, classic Batman stories look like, where it's like the Long Halloween and you're seeing all these mob families and all that. Now we're transferring into a time where that age of crime and whatever has kind of died out, and now it's corporations, businesses, CEOs, that kind of world where Batman is really going to end up focusing on. The GCPD is going after Jazzman, and Batman was late, and Batman finally gets there. He defeats Jazzman, brings him out, and he just sees shock on the GCPD's face. He learns that Commissioner Gordon has been shot. Batman goes to the hospital. He's panicking. He's been pushing away his allies, and now, because he pushed them away, it got hurt, and this kind of negative space in him is feeding evidence in the wrong way. Like, so instead of, Batman was like, I need to keep everyone close to protect them, which led them to be pushed away, he's now kind of saying, no, I was right. But there's still that conflict in him, kind of knowing he's wrong. Barbara Gordon is there. She won't even talk to Batman. I think that's a key factor. But later we'll find out she just wasn't ready to talk. But because Barbara won't talk to Batman, that causes him to return back to the Batcave and basically, sorry for the hip term, crash out. He loses it. Almost wants to take the Scarecrow drug again, but decides that he needs to really come to face with his fears. At this point, we kind of learn in the story that Batman has always saw Bat himself as the true person and Bruce Wayne as the mask. He views that Bruce Wayne died in that alley that night with his parents, and that's when the Bat was born, even though it didn't have a name, it didn't have a purpose, it didn't have a process. He didn't go, oh, I'm gonna be Batman when I'm older. I think it became the character, and when the symbol was found, that's when it was given a name. But it was all that persona was always there. When Bruce finally adopts Dick Grayson and has Barbara Gordon around more often, they're having family dinners, they're doing this, more of this Bat family, regular family. Bruce starts to realize that Bruce Wayne is still alive. He's inside him, but he's been so lost for so many years. And I think that causes the conflict in Batman of, I need to protect this, and because he protected it too hard, it crashed and burned, and he pushed everyone away. But that's all he ever wanted. And now he's questioning of, do I keep doing this? Is Batman truly helpful? It was Bruce Wayne who really built the family. It was Bruce Wayne who adopted Dick Grayson. It wasn't Batman who went to Dick Grayson and said, well, you're Robin now, and we're just going to have you be adopted because that's how to keep our secret identity safe. It was, no, Bruce Wayne was in the circus that night. Also, in my universe, I really changed up the origin of Dick Grayson. Not too much, it's still super faithful, but that is a story for another day. Anyways, Batman is in his head, and he's like, I don't know, for how so long I knew Batman was the true person and Bruce Wayne was the mask. He's like, but now that is conflicted in him, and he still isn't able to find an answer. After the turmoil and conversations with Alfred, Leslie Tompkins, and finally talking to Barbara as well. Let me know what you guys think. I don't have Dick Grayson come back and talk to Bruce. I think it's better having them separated. But I do think there's either a flashback or some type of story of Dick Grayson. Or even if it is just Barbara. There's the key point of them talking to Batman. It is okay that for all those past years, Batman has been the person. But when you found Bruce Wayne, you also pushed him away. And instead, you have to save Bruce Wayne as well. And basically what that means is, so what? Batman has become a merchandised item, and people always look for him, and whatever. At the core of it, the reason that is the case is because he's a symbol of hope. He always says, I am vengeance, I am the night, I'm Batman. He doesn't have to be vengeance anymore. He is that symbol of hope. He is the symbol of change. And he's the symbol of justice. That the true criminals out there, who are true evil and not just trying to survive, those who do harm will face justice. And that is what Batman is. Now in his career, he has had his vengeance. The Knight had his vengeance. Now he is a symbol of hope and encouraging people to change. It's time for the Bat to come out of the shadows. And of course, later we have that redemption kind of feeling. Jim Gordon, someone sends a hitman for him, Batman saves him, blah blah blah. Barbara Gordon finally explains that she was just not ready to talk. But Batman realizes that Bruce Wayne can coexist with Batman. And not one has to be the mask. Because they are one. Batman does what Bruce Wayne can't, and Bruce Wayne does what Batman can't. It is okay for Bruce to be a family person and to be happy. He doesn't have to live in the darkness just because he was I Am Vengeance. So with that being said, he reflects and decides that, after 10 years, this is the time. He's going to accept that, and he's going to try and do things differently in Gotham. Batman goes to the Batcave, he gets some new items, and he reconstructs his batsuit. This time, from going from the dark gray and black, he takes a lighter gray, and he takes a light blue. He makes For the first time, he makes a yellow oval with the bat symbol. For yes, the bat symbol in the past was just to be a target, but this is meant to be a symbol.
Are you looking for me?
Batman decides once more to go back to Crime Alley, do a fresh start on this year 10. An uplifting kind of idea. He leaves a message for Dick Grayson saying he wants to, try and work things out, and the past can't be changed, but, he has done some bad things, but he wants to try to be better. So Batman is having a new kind of feeling. He feels better. He, walks back to the Batmobile, and the strangest thing makes him smirk. He sees a kid, 14, 15, stealing the wheels off the Batmobile. And he just sits there and he ponders as that kid freezes when he sees the Batman. That is the story of I Am Vengeance. Like I said, please go and read, watch, play all of the sources, inspiration that I took to this story. Just a quick little wrap up. I wrote this story because when I was reading Wayne Family Adventures, the webtoon series, I loved how Bruce was a family person, and he wasn't as dark and gloomy. Of course, he had his moments in like season 3, I think it is, when the Joker escapes. But I like that. I like seeing Bruce evolve. I never liked how, like in Arkham Knight, we see a Batman who's supposed to be, several years, way past year 10 in his career, still be so cold to his allies. Granted, I understand that story called for it, but the representation of the Bat family, and yes, Bruce is the dark and gloomy one out of all of them, but he can have fun too. So I really love that, and I really also wanted to respect Kevin Conroy, because he is truly the Batman. He's my Batman, period, end of sentence. But he always said that Batman was the real person and Bruce Wayne was the mask. And through his interpretations of Batman and the writing that surrounded that, it was very clear that was the case. So I didn't want to just throw that out the window. I wanted to truly honor the two. And I think we see with that special character at the end of this story, Batman's going to really try again and be a better father, better Batman, all of that. And just because this is a year 10 story and you can tell we're still kind of early into the career, even though a lot of stuff is settled, it gives a big explanation for a blue-gray batsuit, because I feel like that's never, everyone really goes, they want it in media, but they don't really know how it works. I think this is a great example of how to show it works. It's because of this new mentality of Bruce. And two, he doesn't have to stay like this. We know what happens next, based on the teaser. I don't want to, really spoil it, because I'm hoping you guys will like and subscribe and comment and want to see maybe a couple more stories that I have written that follow up this with some of these characters that you may know who's coming next, and what happens. But I will say that as the years go on, Batman does fall back into this I Am Vengeance place, and he does become dark again, almost like a relapse. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but to me it's pretty close. That happens, but he will come back to a point where he's back to this, and he wears the blue, all that again. That is, one of my many new modern type of takes of Batman. One of a way that explains, like I said, explains the gray-blue suit. Explains a better kind of solution, I feel like, of the Dick Grayson split with Batman. And also combines this conversation that really has filled the community, which of what I've seen of everyone battling who is the mask, Batman or Bruce Wayne. Everyone's right. It just depends. In my opinion, everyone is right with their choice when they say Batman is the mask or Bruce Wayne is the mask. it just depends on where you're looking at Batman in his career and what stories you are reading and what you're consuming, because that is so important. And Batman can't be stale. He can't. He's got to evolve. And even if he takes a couple steps back, he will go forward again, because that is what Batman is. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe. Comment any notes, if you want to say, hey, you forgot to shout out, this story really reminds me about this story I read. Please comment it, go read everything, play everything, watch everything. Of course, this is, even though I have listed my sources, but this is my story. I did come up with it on my own with this inspirations. But yeah, I really hope you liked it. If everything works out, today should still be Batman Day, so have a amazing Batman Day. Go watch your favorite Batman movie. I know I will be rewatching for the probably 116th time the Batman, and rewatching the Penguin after that. So have an amazing day, and remember, I don't have a catchphrase yet. Alright, bye.